celebrities have always come up with romantic backstories. About
Yeah, but
how they
it's
were struggling.
astroturfing, dude. It's controlling narratives. Like the NWA, completely CIA.
No, NWA was like,
dude, you're
kids
nuts.
from the hood, though.
No, they weren't, dude. Not one of them is from Compton.
Rap came out of the South Bronx when it was burning.
No, rap was astroturf. They killed off the powerful, the positive rap that was killing it and that was crushing it before. They killed it off and they inserted gangster rap.
Gang
Dude, like
members killed each other.
Like Ice Cube was never a gangster.
I know that.
Ice Cube is the Larry the Cable Guy of hip hop.
No, the guys that became successful at rap and at the business were smart, usually kind of nerdy guys who spent their time working on music. That's what
Brian.
They did. Like Dre spent his time in his basement.
So have you guys seen this new thing? It's the most insane example of what I'm talking about. Do you guys see how Snoop Dogg went to a Pixar movie and he's there with his grandkids?
Oh, and he didn't like how gay it was or something?
He's like, why are they having these why are they having mothers making out in front of the kids?
Yeah.
Right? Do you know today I saw on Twitter, they announced that Snoop Dogg has a new LBDGQ
No, shut the fuck up.
cartoon?
No.
Will you look that up and see if it's real?
I don't think it's real. No.
It might be real.
I still haven't been duped by AI yet.
CIA.
Look, go down, dude. It's all real, dude.
What's this say? I mean, Chin uses Google, so that's a whole nother.
Yeah, oh, don't even get me started.
You might be right here.
A retired CIA agent admitted that hip-hop was a psychological operation invented by the CIA in the 1980s. This agent's name is John Homston. He claims that the agency managed and financed famous artists including NWA, Dr. Dre, Jay-Z, and Kanye West. The government at the time spent serious money on this operation, designed to corrupt the youth and sow division. His words were, "At that time we understood that music is a powerful means of propaganda for young people. We have even infiltrated mainstream radio to promote their music and reach millions of people every day." Sounds a lot like the truth, doesn't it? The famous songs of the cult group NWA were even written by a team of military propagandists and CIA psychologists. Homston claims that the psychological operation was extremely successful. It's hard to argue with this.
Who benefits and profits off our bickering and our division? You know, it's like follow the money. I don't know their names, Bill, but if you follow the money, you go high enough, you start to see, okay, you know, this is an industry. Okay, let's take rap music.
Let's take it.
Same people who own the labels own the prisons. So
literally the same people?
Literally the same people who own the labels own private prisons. So, you know, it seems really kind of suspicious, if you want to say that word, that, you know, the records that come out are really geared to push people towards that prison industry.
But they didn't make you write those lyrics.
It's not about making somebody write the lyrics. It's about being there as guardrails to make sure certain songs make it through and certain songs don't. Certain flavors are exposed on the record. You know, some records are made by committee, meaning record company guys sit around and tell the artists, this is hot, say that, do this. We're gonna have this guy write the lyrics. We're gonna have that. So the narrative is really kind of, you know, structured and really made into what the record company want the record to be, and what the, you know, a lot of artists are frustrated with this kind of music making. You know, a lot of people, you know, feel like they're being controlled by the label. This is how they do it. Telling you what songs to sing, what hooks to do, what songs, you know, you can do your song, that's fine. That's an album cut. But you the single is what we all say is the single.
But, you know, those documents that the Gray Zone published have 2 rap songs in Bangladesh that have lines like they were designed to inspire anti-government sentiment and to promote street protests and political reform. I mean, literally writing rap albums to get people to take to the streets and pull off the exact riot that the State Department wants to destabilize the country.
He caught the CIA selling drugs in South Central LA and then exposed it on a hearing on CNN. You ever seen this? Jamie, pull it up.
I will tell you, Director Deutsch, as a former Los Angeles police narcotics detective, that the agency has dealt drugs throughout this country for a long time. Director Deutsch, I will refer you to 3 specific agency operations known as Amadeus, Pegasus, and Watchtower. I have Watchtower documents heavily redacted by the agency. I was personally exposed to CIA operations and recruited by CIA personnel who attempted to recruit me in the late 70s to become involved in protecting agency drug operations in this country. I have been trying to get this out for 18 years, and I have the evidence.
You should immediately bring that information to the Los Angeles Police Department.
I did bring this information out 18 years ago, and I got shot at and forced out of LAPD because of it.
It's wild.
The government putting guns in the hood.
Okay. That's a fact, though. I mean, what came first, the crack or the guns, bro? What are you talking about? Yeah. Ronald Reagan.
In Chicago.
Oh, Chicago?
Yeah.
Oh, that's just like the bricks that are placed on pallets in certain cities during the riots. Okay. Okay. Come on, man.
All right. FYBJ Maine on the government dropping crates in the hood so the violence doesn't stop.
Is it true that the government puts in Chicago alleyways and like that?
Sean talking about the freights, bro. Stop doing that dumb and I'm talking to the city, the government, whoever the us up like that, bro. What they do, Sean, let me tell you. Let me take some out. Let me calm down because I got to get my point across, bro. They had these freights and they filled up with these and they ride through these neighborhoods. Now, all of a sudden, the train don't work no more. Freight is a train. Do y'all homework on a freight train. This is a poor neighborhood. We trying to see what's in that motherfucker. It hit different. What's in here? How? And it's not happening 1 time or 2 times. This is always happening, Sean. That's how all these just be in the rack, folks.
Cannot start with Freddie Gray, and you cannot start even with the police department in Baltimore. You have to start with the fact that that is a community that was wrecked by so-called urban renewal. That was violence. When they come in and they put the interstate through your community and they knock down your business and they knock down your apartments and they make folks huddle into small crowded housing and they essentially lock them in a holding pen. I mean, we talk about housing and education. We talk about neighborhoods as if it's not about racism. We act like folks just ended up where they ended up. But let's be clear, this thing that we in this country call the ghetto, that was created. And it wasn't created by black people. And it wasn't created by poor people. It was created by folks who were usually not black and definitely not poor as a holding pen for the people they didn't want to live amongst them. So we have to be prepared to call that violence. If you don't call zoning laws and redlining violence, even though it does violence, and you don't call it racism, then how are we going to solve that?
Do you know how many...
No, shut up.
No.
Can you shut your mouth for a minute?
No.
Because I actually work in the ghetto. I see the people.
Do you know why they're in that
Go and I
position?
see these people.
Do you understand the systematic
They
and
get all
historical
kinds
reason
of
for why they're in
chances
that
and
position?
They don't care. All they want to do is be ghetto.
No.
Yes, there's some that don't, and there's good people.
No.
Most of them just want to suck off the system or do something bad like drugs or gangs. And that's all they
have been oppressed. They have not been given the same opportunities you have had.
Yes, they do, and there's plenty of black people.
No, they don't, Dad.
There's plenty of
And you not recognizing that as an issue is the reason why it's still continuing today.
I see them all over. There's all kinds of successful people that are of color. It doesn't matter what color, brown, white.
But it's
orange,
a lot harder for
yellow.
them to get to that position.
It doesn't matter. When they do, they're fine. But there's always filthy animals. And that
You're calling people of color black animals. You're calling them animals. Are you kidding me?
You didn't let me finish.
That's not okay. No matter what, that's not okay. No matter what, it's not okay. Racism is not okay. Why do you think that racism is okay?
Why is it that racist sort of rhetoric just blows up so fast and nobody really challenges it, right? Because you would imagine if someone makes a claim, there are people that would try and push back. But in many cases, that does not always happen. So what causes this? And for those of you who have some things to do, I understand, but please stick around a little bit longer because I do think this is important, and it is not just about black people, but it's about all people. So let's have a look at this. The first reason why is lack of education in the United States. There's a lot of people who grew up in the suburban education system, the inner city education system, that have gone through the universities here, middle school, high school, so on. And black history is not really well taught in the United States. It's a fact. I've talked to many people from different states. I'm also someone who went through the United States education system. And I can tell you that in many institutions, high schools and middle schools, black history it's like a small little blurb. Black History Month, some schools may have a Black History Month, but usually most education on black history is like a week, 2 weeks, maybe for some schools a few days. And what people learn about is they learn that, slavery existed, Martin Luther King, some civil rights, people who fought for civil rights, Malcolm X, a little bit about him, not too much, and then that's pretty much it. There are some all-black schools, HBCUs, that do a much better job, but even then, the actual real history of Black America, as determined by the Department of Education, as well as the White House, the government, is just not thoroughly taught. And one of the reasons is that, according to the government, they don't know how to approach such a sensitive topic. So generally speaking, a lot of things are left out, and that's a shame. That is a shame, because black history is American history, and by not properly teaching black history, a lot of people lose their own history, including white people. So one of my favorite books here is called Stamped from the Beginning. I think anybody that wants to just a basic overview of black history and race, not only in the world, but especially in the United States, should definitely buy this book. This book should be, in my opinion, essential reading in every high school in America, but there's not many essential readings that talk about black American history at all throughout the United States education system in middle schools and high schools. If you go to the average white American and you say, hey, what do you think of someone like William Lloyd Garrison, right? Most people are going to be like, what? Who's that? Who's William Lloyd Garrison? William Lloyd Garrison was actually an extremely important person when it came to helping black people, especially fighting for the end of slavery. And people put a bounty on his head, $5,000, to anyone that could bring him in. People didn't like him, he linked up with lots of different figures, and his story is actually very compelling. His mother was named Frances Maria Lloyd, and William Lloyd, he grew up poor, poverty, and as someone who grew up in poverty, other white people bullied him, and he understood from a young age that being treated inferior just because of the conditions you were born in are unfair. But what's really interesting to me is this part of his story. William Lloyd Garrison's mother died before his indenture ended in 1825. So he was going as an indentured servant to basically learn a skill, trade, craft. And in one of her final requests to her son that did not involve religion, Frances, his mom, pleaded with him to remember, for your poor mother's sake, the black woman Henny, who had kindly cared for her. Although a slave to man, Frances wrote to her son, she is yet a free-born soul by the grace of God. And the interesting thing about Garrison is that he absolutely hated slavery. He hated white nationalist supremacy. And because he grew up poor, he understood how people can subjugate and bully someone because of who they were. And he was able to essentially be one of the figures who fought to end slavery. And I think there are other interesting figures throughout history that are largely forgotten. If you ask the average white person in America, who's Emmett Till, many don't know who he is. And if you ask the average white American, what about the first uprisings in the colonies? With the poor whites who said, you know what, we're being mistreated by the elite and they got together with blacks, and then they said, well, let's fight back, but then they were all killed off, right? That is where the common racist rhetoric of, you know, we hate the nigger lovers, that is where that comes from, right? Because throughout American black history, anytime a white person tried to stand up for what's right and tried to defend black people, many times they were made an example of, many times they were killed off, many times they suffered a fate that was really bad. And the common reason why is because they were stopping profits. The slave trade was all about profit. It was about turning a group of people into subhumans so you can use human labor and not have to pay for it. So any person that went against that, no matter their skin color, was killed for it. And unfortunately, that history is not taught in America. There's so many figures that are largely ignored and lost. And so we don't know, a lot of America don't know who a lot of American black heroes are. A lot of American black patents, a lot of American black inventions, they're just not taught. And it's also sad because even some white heroes, I'll say that without any sort of guilt, white people who stood up for what was right, their history is not taught either. And that's done on purpose because there's still a lot of racism in the United States. There's still a lot of people who make profit and money from racism by dehumanizing people, by making music and movies and films dehumanizing people and trying to keep a permanent class of people that can be exploited, sadly. Continuing on, number 2 is a lack of positive representation of FBA. So, you know, I'm a foundational black American, descendant of slaves, black aboriginals, and black Native Americans, and so on and so on. So I also have European blood inside of me because if you are well read on black history, you'll know that a lot of black slaves were raped and a lot of the slave masters slept with their slaves. It was so common, and a lot of people who, you know, want to debate this, I implore you to read this amazing book. It has a lot of citations, a lot of history, a lot of information to back it up. But that is why my last name is a last name that is not African. So, you know, we have this sort of painful history in our blood. It's important to understand that there's a large section of foundational black American community who are like me. Look, I've never done any drug. I don't like marijuana or anything like that. I don't smoke or drink. I've never had a one-night stand, never had a parking ticket, never been arrested. I am a peace-loving dude. And there's plenty of black people like me in America. The sad thing is that we don't have positive representation. And what do I mean by that? I mean that if you look at Hollywood, a lot of the modern roles, film roles, are not given to FBA, descendants of slaves. They are given to immigrants, and that's okay. I'm not, you know, FBA movement is not an anti-African, anti-Caribbean, anti-Jamaican, blah, 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 blah. But there's not a lot of us who are directors or producers, and not a lot of us who are the owners of the Hollywood studios or the music studios, the social media platforms. So because of that, there's a lot of misrepresentation of us.
When Lockup visited Kentucky State Penitentiary, we met Fleece Johnson, a longtime inmate who practices a very different kind of homosexuality.
Well, we have sexual desires, right? So you got a bunch of men locked up in one place. All of them get hard. All of them's horny. All of them got sexual desires. So what are they gonna do? You won't let them have a woman. They gonna have each. Somebody's gonna have to give us some booty, and it's just that simple.
The most memorable story that Fleece told us was about the place and importance that booty has in a maximum security penitentiary. And he went on about it and on about it.
In his prison, booty was more important than food. booty, a man's butt. It was more important, I'm serious. It was more booty, having some booty was more important than drinking water, man. I like booty.
Because a lot of white America does not grow up with a black friend or around black family and have positive engagements growing up with black people, a lot of them, they get their opinions just like the rest of the world from Hollywood, social media, and music. So when they see social media nitpick some black people acting crazy in a Waffle House, or they see a Hollywood movie depicting black people as thugs, or when they see music or TV shows depicting us doing violent things, or when they show the hip-hop music or modern American music involving black stars, it's always from an exploitive angle of violence, hedonism, and showing us doing the worst behavior. And the funny thing is that many of the top music stars that are black now, a lot of them are not even FBA, but they still are put, no matter what they do, violence, hypersexual is still put under one umbrella as black. So we don't really, people like me, which I think many black Americans are like me, you know, we don't have that positive representation, and we are not, and many times we're not in charge of that, you know. I'm a writer, as you guys know. I work in film and TV and something, and sometimes it's a daily struggle just to write a positive story about a black character, or to write a positive film about a black character. And it's even harder if you want to write positive stories about people who aren't black, right? Everybody can write for us, right? Everyone can write a TV show, just like Seth Green's very racist cartoon, Good Times, very extremely racist cartoon. Everyone can write for black people and tell black people stories, but foundational black Americans, descendants of slavery who built this country, we are not allowed to often tell our own stories. That is why in our community, someone like Ryan Coogler is really important. And there are many more of us who are intellectual, who are peace-loving, who are cool, who are hip, who are, you know, who we've got flavor, we've got style, but, you know, we're not hurting anybody. But it's really hard to get to a position of power where we can have more positive representation. That is why in the past, people like Michael Jackson, people like Bill Cosby, before the scandals, you know, shows like Sister Sister, Smart Guy, and so many other of these kind of popular culture representations, positive representations like the Cosby Show of black people were so important. But now if you look at the media landscape of America, there's not a lot of positive depictions, and the people who are portraying those positive depictions are not FBA, and the people who are writing them are not FBA. So where's our voice? The largest buyer of hip-hop music in the United States are white people. Most FBAs, most black people, we're not really listening to a lot of that hedonistic, hardcore, crazy rap and violence. For me, I personally listen to a lot of Motown, soul, funk, a lot of music from the 70s, 80s, 90s. I listen to Luther Vandross, Patti LaBelle. The fact that a lot of our representation is missing is not good, because when all you see are negative depictions of black people on social media and movies and film and TV, that is powerful, and it spreads a lie to the rest of the world. And when I travel out, it's uncomfortable when people look at me and they walk away. Or when I was I travel a lot. I was in an Asian country recently, and I was talking to a gentleman. I said, longevity is really important to me. I believe in living healthy, holistically, spiritually. And I remember him saying to me, like, wow, that's amazing, because as I know, longevity is not really popular among you people. And I was just surprised by that, and I was like, well, what do you mean, And we had a discussion, and he just told me, his impression of black Americans is violent, masochistic, dangerous. Number 3, the third reason why racist lies and ideas become so popular in America, especially among different the white community, Latino community, and other communities, is because fear of accountability from old heads. So when I say fear of accountability, what I mean is this: I have great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, and so on, who remember slavery. I have parents, grandparents, great-grandparents who remember the civil rights movement, who remember lynchings. There are still a lot of Black Americans alive today who have older relatives who remember segregation, who remember hearing about a cousin or someone getting lynched hung from a tree, despite the fact that people are still dealing with racial violence today. One of the big reasons why Black history is not taught in schools, and why a lot of times true history of Black America is not taught, is because these white people who were involved in racial and racist activities, many of them are still alive. A lot of the white youth today are very different in that they grow up in a very different environment from their parents, great-grandparents, and great-great-grandparents, so on and so on. So for a lot of them, they're a lot more open-minded. You meet a lot of young white people who say, hey, some of my favorite influencers or musicians, whatever, might be Black, but their parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, some of them had a direct hand in racial violence, in racial rhetoric. Some of them still are involved in that. I meet some very cool white people who will say to me, hey, my dad is racist as fuck. My mom and dad, my grandparents, they hate Black people, but they don't say it openly. And it's very interesting to me, because I feel like if there was this big awakening where Black history was properly taught, and people can read books like Stamped from the Beginning, another important book, Black Like Me, which is a story about a white man who became a Black person in the 1950s, and he told his story, he put on makeup and he just tried to live as a Black person. And most white people have never heard of this book, Black Like Me. It's an amazing book, and he just tells it as it is, as a white man. Great book. Another one, Medical Apartheid, one of my favorite books of all time, talking about trauma and how the medical industry was built on basically destroying, cutting up, hurting, and just carving up Black people in the United States. If you look at the American Association of Gynecology, right, where did that come from? The first guy who created that actually took 11 Black women and cut up their vaginas and without anesthesia. And then he was able to create a cure for an illness that was affecting white women, and eventually he established the American Association of Gynecology. So again, all of this is kept a secret for a reason, and the reason why is because a lot of these older white people do not want to face the backlash of younger white people looking up at their family tree or looking back at their family tree and saying, "Granddad, why did you do that? Dad, great-granddad, why did you do this? This is horrible." So a lot of times, a lot of the white youth are kind of kept in the dark about about history, about Black history, their own family history. There's a lot of white people in America, I would say the majority, whose great-grandfather were probably involved in slavery in some way. And there's a lot of white people who don't know if their grandfather or great-grandfather lynched a Black person. It was quite commonplace. Lynchings were so commonplace that they would put them on postcards. And so that is why you should definitely read a book called Without Sanctuary, which talks about the history of lynchings. And lynchings, they happened until like the 1970s and 80s, but still some were still happening in sundown towns in the 90s and so on and so on. It's just that there's no documented records, nobody knows, but that's a really great book to look at. And I think there's a lot of fear from older whites that if the truth comes out, not only does the grift end and the profitability end, but maybe there's actually a chance for better race relations. Number 4 is profitability. From the beginning of slavery to now, it wasn't just purely a racial thing. It was about creating a permanent lower class who could be used to build increasing profits. If you look at the Industrial Revolution of the United States, it was started by King Cotton Industry. King Cotton was a very prolific company that helped the United States in many ways become very rich. The profits were so good that people, they just accepted slavery as just a way of life because people were living so well. And after America became rich from that, many patents, many inventions, many ideas that were stolen from black people, music itself, black people still don't get much credit for the creation of most of the modern music genres that you see today. I could do a deep dive on that probably for another video. If you just take music alone, for example, no Little Richard, no Beatles. Even Elvis got his style and his music from a black person. No Dr. Dre, no Eminem. I mean, the list can go on and on and on and on. Those music genres, those dances, those styles, they're the foundation of the entire world's music. And those things are going to make music in perpetuity forever. But unfortunately, black people are not credited for that. And that's just music by itself. To this very day, black people are still used in a way to build profit, but discarded afterward. If you look at TV stations like Fox, right, with black shows, once the network took off, a lot of the black shows were eventually stopped. If you look at Nickelodeon, you had a lot of black programming, but once the network took off, they became less and less. If you look at a lot of situations like this, right? The big musical explosion of the 70s and 80s and 90s with all these really amazing black soul funk singers, where are they now? Make no mistake of it, racism is at its very core about exploitation and profitability. And the reason why powerful people do not want racism to end is because once it does, they make less money. And when the truth comes out, they're going to have to pay up. The FBA reparations movement is not about giving a blank check to every black person in the world. The reparations movement is about paying the descendants of slaves for their contributions and their ancestors' contributions, which largely were stolen, raped, and murdered from them. A lot of patents, a lot of inventions that were stolen from them. The goal is to never, ever, ever allow any history or truth about American ingenuity, especially black American ingenuity, to ever really come out and face the light of day, because then reparations and the loss of profitability is something that's on the table. One of my favorite stories from this book is, it actually takes place in the 19th century. There was a white factory that got rid of its white workers and replaced them with black slaves because it was more profitable. And the white workers said, well, how are we going to make a living? They said, well, good luck to you, sorry. So if you think that these people consider you as a white person a member of the club, you're not. They are in the club and you're not invited, but making you racist helps them to make more money in the club, which I think is really quite funny if you think about it. There's irony there. The last and I think really important aspect I want to get to in this video, number 5, is a race war allows a lack of centralization of power among people. So there's something very interesting that happens when governments become more and more corrupt. They start to divide people, and the reason why they divide people is because they don't want to get hung. They don't want to atone for the corruption and the evil that they've done. Anyone that has started a world war, anyone that has, collapsed the economy, whether it's the .com bubble, the coming AI bubble, the coming world wars that are being planned, these sort of people, they don't want to atone. They consider the economic collapses that they create. They consider the military wars where they send millions and millions of black and white and every race of their children to die, to be a necessity, right? To keep the status quo, right? Until they get to the next grift. And it's kind of sad because I think that if proper black history and proper American history is taught, these sort of lies against black people, but even further lies against white people can be ended, right? Because white nationalist supremacy's goal is to not only demonize black people, but to justify white people's hatred toward them. It is actually a way of saying that white people are inherently racist because they are superior, and black people deserve to be slaves. If proper American black history is taught in schools, and also if these sort of lies are debunked, what we'll start to see is people possibly coming together. And anyone that tries to put black and white people, or yellow people and black people, or put people together in general, are assassinated. And the sad thing is, even though this entire video makes complete sense, there are so many white racist, white nationalist supremacists, of which there are a large number of around the world and the United States, who will come together and still say that everything I've said is a lie, they are superior, and so on, so on. I guess it really does go back to this profound statement. If you can convince the lowest white person that they are better than a black person, then you can pick their pockets. And that's what it's all about, guys. Well, guys, I want to thank all of you for joining me on this awesome ride. And I want to say something really important as we finish this video. I have a lot of brothers. I have a lot of sisters. I stand 10 toes down on being FBA. I'll never, ever, ever be a coon and sell out my blood or use nationalist white supremacist talking points to talk down on my people, ever, ever. I'd rather be shot. You're gonna have to kill me to get me to say those kind of things. But at the same time, I also have some white brothers who are down for the cause. You know, I'm from Chicago, and you know, the FBA community, we know people that rock with us. I have some brothers who are Asian. I have some brothers from very different. I have some African brothers. And the truth of the matter is this: if you're down with us, we're always going to be down with you. We've done so much. The idea that black people are lazy is also a lie, a complete racist rhetoric, just like the 1350%. How can lazy people who were the root cause of the Industrial Revolution, the root cause of creating a lot of your favorite music genres, the root cause of helping to create your favorite video games, the idea of video games, the idea of a lot of things, the subway, the different various types of engineering, medical science, the root cause of a lot of things. We are not lazy, we're not anti-intellectual, we are just exploited. And if you think that you, because of the color of your skin, makes you special, well, when you see the upcoming economic crisis that will occur, the upcoming wars that will happen, you're going to figure out that you're just another number and you're exploited too. The most important thing for us as human beings is to learn truth and how to come together. But until that day happens, I'm a soldier in the war against white nationalist supremacy.